To Fiona O'Loughlin.
And I'd also like to add my voice of best wishes for a speedy recovery to Minister Naughton. When I was growing up in Rathangan in County Kildare, Minister, one of the great institutions that we had in our small village was not just the post office but the postmistress. We had a wonderful woman called Molly Ford, who was a friend to everybody, who supported everybody, young and old, and always gave advice and helped where she could. And indeed, there was queues both outside as well as inside in relation to all of the services that she provided, including knowing everybody well enough to know that when somebody was 18 that they went on the electoral register. And that was the social service that she provided. Sadly, Molly is no longer with us, but thankfully the post office is. And I would hate to see or envisage any situation where Rathangan or any similar village or town would not have the services of a post office, such as Ballymore Eustace in Kildare, where Sean Fogarty runs an absolutely thriving business, but he has had to diversify and he has had to be creative and look beyond the common to be able to provide the post office service that he does. A few miles up the road we have 2 Mile House, which is a great example of a rural post office, and that was run for 50 years by Jim Valentine and his wife Abina, and Jim's mother was the postmistress before him from 1938, which is almost 80 years ago. The post office and the small shop that were there operated from 7:30 every morning for as long as everybody in the locality could remember. The kitchen table was the sorting end of the business, and coming up to Christmas all of the counties would be laid out where the Christmas cards would go to, and the turkeys were brought in for Abina to send to England and abroad, and quite often she actually had to kill the turkeys themselves. That was the process that we had many years ago. Just before Christmas, sadly, the Valentines have retired, and the post office network has put the business up for tender, but at this point in time there has been no application for it. And this is to do with the fact that the small rural post offices are now operating on less the equivalent of the national minimum wage, and as such they are not viable business propositions, but the whole community is losing out on a very vital service. Places like the Valentines, like Sean Fogarty's and like the post office in Rathangan have played a vital social and economic role in the communities that they serve. But we have to acknowledge that with a reduced income and footfall, that the future of this type of post office is in danger. The Grant Thornton report states that we are at risk of losing between 450 and 500 of our 1,300 post offices by the end of this year if the situation is not properly addressed. But the report also reminds us of the intangible benefits provided by our post offices, the significant trust and goodwill that the post office network has developed far and beyond their capacity with their customers, and its role in social inclusion, where the local post office acts as a conduit of information and of caring and of two-way information flow, and the knowledge indeed that our postmasters and their staff have of our elderly and vulnerable and often isolated customers. So we need to act now to reverse the worrying decline of our post office network. I don't necessarily agree with removing the bar in relation to having a cap on the price of stamps, but unfortunately, if it is the only thing that we can do now to sustain our network, that is what we must do. We absolutely need to put other things in place too. We need fresh thinking around this situation. I agree that we need to establish a working group to identify the potential capacities for local post offices to act as hubs, to facilitate other services and to act as one-stop shops for other government facilities, such as have been committed to in the Partnership for Government. In Fianna Fáil, we absolutely believe that motor tax, for example, and other government services could be facilitated through the post office network, as well as the extension of social protection payments. We also believe that in many instances we often hear of older people who may not have computer facilities or indeed computer skills. So there must be a place where the post office can actually include doing this part of work as part of their remit and providing printing facilities for people as well too. So basically the long-term future of our postal services needs a broader range of resources and measures to keep the active post office network that we have. It's a huge and vital asset when we think of the stretch of the network and all the people that work within it. Post offices have to remain a part of the Irish cultural identity, and as well as their many practical uses, they serve as a key, strong and focal point for our communities. It's absolutely vital to us that we defend this key national resource, and if this is the short-term measure, while having the opportunity to look at longer-term measures, then so be it.